Hi, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Michael Yon, and I'm so rapt to be doing an interview with Kuntarkis about his home planet, Narkariss. So, without further ado, let's go to my first question. Kuntarkis, we're talking about your planet, your home planet, and before we get into all the little questions that we could ask about this planet, can you explain to us what your connection is to this planet? Why do you know so much about them? And also, if I say this as well, most of them, as I know, the beings have ascended, but there's still those that are still behind, still physical. Are they the beings that we're going to be talking about?
Absolutely, yes. The physical beings, yes.
Right, the physical beings. So what is your connection to Narkariss?
Well, I suppose I'll have to first say, again, I came here on the 29th of August in 1969 at 11:11 p.m. The interesting factor is I felt as if I opened up quite quickly. Trying to complete somebody else's karma can be a very, very tricky thing because a lot of the times you're not aware of the situations that were created by the recipient from his karma or her karma. So sometimes you're actually flying blind.
Sorry, and recipient you mean because you were a walk-in. You didn't incarnate at birth.
That's right, exactly.
At age of 18, you came and with the new spirit of Maroman's body.
Yes, I actually came in and he left just before his 18th birthday. So once you complete all that karma, I realized through my sleep time that I was having tremendous experiences. I was seeing a being that stood about 12 foot tall, pure light, in perfect form, like it was wearing some sort of armor. And I thought it was rather interesting. I could see this being at a distance, never close up. And I was seeing other things, like I was seeing buildings that were, I mean, we have high buildings on this planet that are unbelievably high, like the Q1 down the Gold Coast. If you go to China, they have now the tallest building, I believe, in the world. It's sort of reaching the sky. Like, back in the olden days, they were trying to build pyramids so the emperor could touch the heavens. Naturally, that would never happen. That was just a deluded wish. But the Narkariss have got buildings that are up to 3 kilometers high. And it's just amazing when you start to see things like this in your time of sleep. And also communicating with beings that are about 7 foot tall, that you have no real awareness of them, but you feel as if you know them. So I became, I suppose, pretty quick in understanding that there was something about me that I had to investigate. So because I could meditate very easily and go very deep, I started to have more and more experiences of a world that I felt that I was a part of. And I was meeting these beings and they were talking to me like Kanag, Taikani, Kalusha, other things like Narkariss even. And they were talking about their names. They were saying, I'm Kanag, I'm your brother. And I would just look at them as if, who? And eventually I started to realize that I had a name. And one night that name came as clear as ever, Kuntarkis. And I said, well, that's a strange name. And one night, during my sleep time, I was out of my body and I was just floating, and I was feeling so peaceful. It's like I was embraced in this bed of golden light, just floating in the atmosphere. And then this voice spoke to me. Again, I'm Kanag. And I looked at him and I said, I'm Kuntarkis. And he looked at me and smiled and he said to me, oh my God, you remember? Oh, isn't that fantastic? And I woke up. So from that point, I started to open up to knowledge. And when I say knowledge, it's like someone released my floodgates and this knowledge just poured in. And I could hear all these voices at the same time. I'm talking thousands of voices talking to me at the same time. And that was my past. All the people that I knew, not people like in spirit world, but people that I knew. And I was having for months and months and months these massive conversations about the universe, about planets, about Narkariss. So I started asking questions. What is Narkariss? And these beings were telling me that it's a planet that's over 417,000 light years from Earth. And it's your home. So from that point, I started to realize that I was a being that has lived many lives on Narkariss. And here I am in this physical body called Roman. And from that point, I never looked back.
Wow. Not only did you not look back, you've now had countless, I'm guessing, experiences of actually being on that planet, say, during your time of sleep?
I would say several thousand.
Wow. So you're very acquainted, not only, with the physical planet, you're very acquainted with it.
Absolutely. I know the planet. Well, I shouldn't say like the back of my hand. I think that's jumping overboard. But I know the planet so well. It's like in my new book called The Dream Assassin Volume 1, but also especially Volume 2. I'm now sitting here typing, and it's flowing like a river, endlessly. And all this information, I've now put the planet Narkariss and the beings that I know, like my brothers and my sister, actually into the book. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a book of fiction with the most strongest touch of reality, because it's my reality. And that's why I know the planet so well. I know that the planet has existed for 14 million years in the vibration that it exists now. I found out not that long ago that beyond that 14 million, there was another 13 million years of evolution for the Narkariss civilization, just like planet Earth, the Neanderthals. Well, 27 million years ago, it began on another planet. And when they left that planet and came to a new home, they have existed now for 14 million years. And that is just incredible. 27 million years of evolution. And here we are, only 928,000. Doesn't that make your mind boggle?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to ask, why did they move from one planet to another?
During their time there, they always, as they evolved, let me put it this way. As they evolved as a being, and the Narkarons are very tall people. I think I've explained this once before, but they're about 7 foot tall, very solidly built. They don't carry fat on their bodies. They're very agile. They're very springy. They don't have stomachs like we do here on Earth when you reach about 40 or 45 and you feel like you're, pregnant. But they're very athletic and they do a lot of training. But back then, they were a peaceful race, but what they found, there were aliens who were very negative, similar in appearance, but not as tall, but very aggressive. They wanted to find out about the technology that the Narkarons were creating, because they were one of the first planets that created a force field. Now, the force field was not so much impenetrable, but it would take a long time of continuous bombarding of the attackers before they could break it down. Now, today, you could never break down their force field. You can get 10 trillion spaceships and travel at the light of speed and hit that force field, and all you would see is all those spaceships disintegrating, one after the other. But they could never get through that veil of force field because it's living energy. They learnt how to manipulate the single atom. To them, it's not called an atom, they call it living energy. And they learnt how to create everything they have today, from what you would call a communication device, to a computer, to their vehicles, to their spaceships, to the way they live, their lighting. Their lighting is an incredible thing. They don't have powerhouses. They have a device in every building, but also placed around the entire planet. And what it does, it draws in the energy, and they convert that energy into power. And it literally runs their entire house, their entire buildings, their entire factories, their entire malls, their shopping centres, everything. Their phones, everything. It is an incredible thing to actually witness that there is no powerhouses. There is just living energy. And the living energy was converted so it becomes their impenetrable force field. And Narkarons can actually wear a small device and they can place a force field around their bodies, which is impenetrable to everything. I mean, you could get a gun like a Magnum, which is supposed to be one of the most powerful revolvers on the planet here, and you can shoot it at point blank, and the bullet would come out of that gun and just squash into infinity because of the force behind it. But it wouldn't even make a dent in that force field. And what's more incredible, their force fields are so impenetrable that you could put an atom bomb, a nuclear missile, right beside one Narkaron that's got his force field turned on, and you can ignite it. That force field would not allow itself to move right from that spot, not even 2 centimeters. But everything around it would be annihilated, vaporized. That's how powerful they have created their technology. And it was never created to cause harm. It was created for the betterment of every Narkaron, but also it's their security. So if they don't want to fight, they don't have to. They can just ignore their attackers. Oh, by the way, an atom, if it's inverted and imploded from bottom to top to left to right, twisted left, twisted right, twisted in one direction and then the other, they can create anything they want. And all it is testing as they implode or twist. And the atom, which is living energy, wants to work with you because you are made from it, and it's attracted to your energy field. And the more you grow consciously, and that's what the Narkarons discovered, the more you grow consciously, the more it will work with you. It will do anything for you. But as long as you know how to hum from the heart, and that's one thing the Narkarons have, is an honest humming heart. And it's the heart that literally dictates all their decisions in every moment of every breath.
Wow, it's the heart. So another way of saying that is intuition. So they're in touch with their heart. They're in touch with their intuition.
Absolutely. Every Narkaron on that planet is taught from the moment they are born to have vision, to use the power of their imagination. That's why I did the podcast with you with the power of imagination. People here use the word not so much incorrectly. It's that they don't fully understand the meaning of the word when it's expressed through consciousness. When you express the word imagination through your logical thinking, and because man wrote the dictionary, he sees it in a particular way, and he can't take that way into a higher vibration because it's at a certain frequency. But when you grow in your thought consciousness and you learn to understand how to harness living energy through every breath that you take in every moment of your existence, you start to develop very deep awareness. And that awareness is called the known to the unknown. It's the knowing. It's total truth. And the Narkariss can't lie because they have never learnt the meaning of delusion of truth. They only know truth as it is in total honesty.
Wow. Lying is in no way a part of their culture.
Never has been.
Wow.
When they started to grow from the beginning of the dawn as a being, they were like Neanderthals, right? But the difference was they were very curious beings, always, from the beginning of the moment. And they would look at things to see if they could improve something. And that showed imagination, even from the beginning. And as time moved on, their imagination grew into thought consciousness. And through thought consciousness, they become enlightened in how to do things, in how to act. Then they learnt about the heart because they could feel it. They weren't really emotional beings. Even though they experienced emotions, they learned to understand that emotions is simply a lesson to learn and then to let go. But become that feeling being, because being a feeling being it means you're working from your heart center, which is the greatest thing in your body, your heart. If you don't have an honest heart, if you don't know what your heart is about, then you will never experience unconditional love. The Narkariss believe wholly and solely in unconditional love. A little story, just very quickly. It reminds me about a little over 2 million years ago when we were at a planet and we were trying to help this species grow. I won't go into the drama side of it, but they were the type of beings that would not listen. They were fearful of change. When someone is fearful of change, you cannot talk to them from a higher consciousness because they will not be able to comprehend what you are expressing because they don't come from the heart. But if you take a person that, even a Neanderthal, and if you can touch their heart and get them to feel from the heart, they actually will listen to you. But if a being cannot come from the heart, but only lies and deceit and negative emotions, they will not listen to you because they haven't got the ability and they don't want to hear it. And that's what's really sad. But what happened with that planet, the Narkariss tried for many cycles Now, a cycle is a month in our human time. They tried for 32 cycles. They stayed there to try and help them become aware. They informed them that if they keep on the road that they're going on, they will not only destroy themselves, but their entire world. They wouldn't listen. They even fired these unusual cannon-type weaponry to try and destroy what they thought was interference. So the Narkariss turned and went away. About 3.5, let's say, human years later on, they got a message and their entire planet burnt up because they apparently blew up because of the gases that were in the earth. And they caused such an inner atomic explosion that it literally incinerated everything on the planet. And all it left was a few buildings that were solid. But the life forms were all perished. That's what is called unconditional love, when you walk away from something. And there's an old saying that Buddha said a very long time ago. To let go doesn't mean I don't care. It means I love you from my heart, and I will give you the space to learn at your own pace. So Buddha even would turn around and walk the other way because he loved everything. But he realized he couldn't do it for anyone unless they were willing to want to learn. And so that planet literally was incinerated.
I see. You were talking about the knowing and these Narkariss, even from birth, being trained in heart and vision. And I wanted to start with my questions. The first question I had here is, do all of them remember at some point in their life, maybe in their, I don't know when, but do they remember their past incarnations?
I will say now, absolutely. I know it's a word I use a lot, but to me, it's a word by saying absolutely means 100%.
Yeah, now.
Now, if we go back, say, before Narkariss, I'll explain that. Narkariss came to their world. Prior that, I don't think they fully understood the meaning of past lives. They understood the meaning of it, but they didn't actually remember. That's what you were trying to get to. But Narkariss, a being from another dimension, spent thousands of years helping, talking, communicating, expressing knowledge. And what was really interesting with the Narkariss, they zapped it up like a sponge that was dry. And by the time he finished talking, the sponge was full. And they just loved it. And that's why they gave him the honor to come whenever he chose to and speak to the Narkariss. Because they just learned to love him so much. Because they learned what the heart was. They learned all about the inner worlds. They learned all about other civilizations that he's helped. They learned how to transform from one way of thinking to higher levels of understanding. They also learnt about reincarnation, the real essence of what reincarnation is about. Not this silly little thing called the wheel of life that humans have lived on for the last 928,000 years and keep coming back naturally, different circumstances because of different lives, but basically the same lessons of going around and around and around. No one on this planet is teaching that you also can get off the wheel of life if you choose to grow in thought consciousness. And that's the difference. So the Narkariss did learn from this being all about how to remember their past lives. But I will say this. To remember your past lives the way we are, say, as humans at this time, would be detrimental to us in growth, because we may attune ourselves to that form of character that may have been very negative. And that's why our higher consciousness, which is like our soul, doesn't permit us to remember at this point in our evolution. Down the track, yes, we will. But at this point, no. The Narkarons learnt how to in-tune themselves to their past lives so it would help in their growth and their understanding, but not just for themselves, but to change their DNA so they wouldn't have all these negative traces that are constantly on this planet passed on to our children. And they literally are living a lot of the characteristics and habits of us as parents. So they learned how to break those walls down and change their genetics. So when they had a child, the child was pure in genetics. So they would literally have a much better chance of growing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure. You just made me think about, on average, how many children do a mother and father on Narkariss have?
Normally about one, sometimes two in their lifetime. And they only have one mate.
For life?
For life on that planet.
Wow.
Yes, and they do, by the way, they do actually have what they call a ceremony. They don't call it a marriage ceremony. They do have a ceremony where anyone is invited. And because there is no monetary system on that planet, all they do is enter their details through their computers, a date and everything, and it's all arranged. Everything is arranged. Everyone works with each other to bring those two beings together in the most beautiful and most loving way. And sometimes there are people there that some of the Narkarons don't even know, but they come because their heart is in the right place.
Wow, that would be so beautiful to see and different to ours. Like they don't have a person running the ceremony, do they?
No, they don't. No, what happens with that, the two people who are joining in a ceremony, they speak to each other and make their own vows. And it is recorded into a mass computer just for reference. There's no legal terms, there's no dollar factor of buying a marriage license or anything like that.
What about putting a ring on each other's finger? That's not a thing, is it?
No, that what they do put on a bracelet. Sometimes they use a bracelet. It's a special bracelet for two that are joining as one, or they will wear a necklace. And a lot of the times it's like a symbol. I think sometimes they've had this on Earth where something may be split in half and you can join it in different shapes.
Yeah, you mean like two necklaces where the spot at the bottom has a joining?
Yeah, That's right. Or they may even wear their own, not their partner's photo on a little emblem, because it's a meaning of pure happiness. And no Narkarons, to my knowledge, in their entire history, unless they were killed in battle, no such thing as divorce, by the way. There is no divorce. And also there is no long relationships. Like two people who come together are meant to come together, just like people on Earth. But when they come together, it could be a month or two before a ceremony is organised. And it's really? Very quick.
Very quick. But also because they're not messed up like we are. Like having multiple marriages, I guess, like because they're not messed up, they don't have the ego problem that we have.
No.
they can actually mate for life. They can literally be connected for life.
They're like a lot of birds here on Earth. A lot of the birds mate for life. They only have one. They only have one mate, and that's it. And if one mate dies, they never go with another one. There are other animals, I believe, here on Earth also do the same thing. It's to do with, like here on Earth, karma is a very big thing, and Westerners are starting to understand, basically what karma is all about. The Eastern philosophy have always known, but even they're starting to become a little slack in their understanding. They're not seeking it so much because we're becoming so westernized all over the entire planet, and people aren't searching that essence within themselves to find some sort of clarity on who they are. That's why I create my books with knowledge, sensible knowledge, so it literally inspires but also presses little buttons within people, and it makes them think. And that's the whole point, to get us to think that there is more to life than just going to bed every night, having a lousy sleep, and then waking up the next morning, going to a job you don't really like, but you have to because you have to pay the bills. That's why the monetary system is not good, because it's all built on greed. It's only 11% of the human society over this entire planet who are rich and who control the world. Whereas on Narkariss, right, there is no such thing, because they have never had a monetary system. They used to have a thing called what we had here, called the bartering system, where everyone grew things, helped each other and all that, but it even grew beyond that. And what they do now is everything goes through computers. And if you want a new car, you just put it in. You put a reason in why you want the new car, and people come out. They take the car off the back of a big, what they call a Hummer, which doesn't have wheels, and they take your old one away for recycling. It's all done that way. And it's quite amazing, really. Even with clothes. Clothes are delivered to your door unless you choose to go into these massive, massive centres in every single city on the entire planet. I mean, you've got to look at it. The planet has 2 suns, smaller than the sun we have here, and 3 moons. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So is there a time in the day where it is all dark?
For a very short period of time, only about 4 hours.
And do they sleep then?
They do, actually, but they do a different form of sleep. Their sleep is a meditation. It's called rejuvenation. I'm using English words so it's fully understood, but it's like a rejuvenation. They have their mind set. They can also place these type of headsets on where it will take them into a very, very deep slumber and then give them an experience. And if there's something they want to learn, they can actually put a program in, which is all electronic, no mechanical things, all electronic. Everything is like Wi-Fi. It's quite incredible, but on a very different level. But they can learn from these systems while they sleep that 4 hours. And when they get up, they can go and do a job like put a motor together or build a house if they had to. They don't, but that's what they could do. And children, for instance, like with schools, there are no schools. Now, there are special universities where you can actually live there for a period of time and come home if that's what you choose. But a lot of Narkarons don't really do that a lot. What they do is all their lessons are learnt on these devices because they're so in tune with themselves, like physically, spiritually, mentally, that they can literally listen to a program and gain the ability. Now, there are people on this earth that believe, and they even teach it, that if you visualize, say maybe on a CD or on a DVD, that you are having a workout and you're seeing yourself They create these DVDs with your face even, that you're having this tremendous workout, which might go for 2 hours. There have been people reported that I've read about on this earth that when they've got up, they're as sore as ever. Their legs are sore, their back's sore, their arms are sore. Because everything is living energy, just because you're laying down doesn't mean your mind is not giving you a physical workout. So when you awaken, you actually feel as if you've had a 2-hour solid workout. And your body proves it. Now, the Narkarons, they have been doing this for millions of years. And they have harnessed the understanding through thought consciousness to literally listen to a program and get up straight away after they listen to it and go and do it if they choose to. And it's amazing.
So there are jobs that they can involve themselves in if they feel like serving?
Yes, Michael, that's very true. What happens is there is no paid positions, whereas on Earth, right, there's never been a monetary system whatsoever except a bartering system, which faded out a long, long time ago. What they do, computers that are set all over the planet, in all the different cities, in their homes, are all interconnected. All they have to have is a passcode, just like here on Earth, a simple passcode. That's a personal thing, and they can log into anyone over the entire globe because no one is doing anything that's going to cause a naughty, like a hacker. That doesn't exist. Internet hackers don't exist. People who are trying to steal money from your accounts on the internet don't exist. None of that ever existed except for the 87,000 that were placed here 928,000 years ago by the Narkarons because they chose to live a different way of life. Now, on the planet, if they choose, say, for instance, I'm just trying to think of a job. Okay, just say a woman wants to go and do a course on, say, how to sew clothes. She can listen to these devices and she can gain the knowledge in a very short period of time. You don't need a diploma. There is no such thing as a diploma, a qualification. The qualification is in the knowing that you've listened to these devices to gain the knowledge which has been created by experts on a much higher level. And when you've gained that knowledge, you can then enter your names and details that you wish to go and do a job 2 days a week, or 2 microns a week, which is 2 days. So you go along and they send you information. Yes, you're listed from this date. You go and do that job. You might decide you want to work in a coffee shop. Well, they don't really have coffee like we do. Let's say to serve Pasaki purple tea, which is one of the biggest traditions on the planet. And you'll go along and you'll work in that place to gain the knowledge, but also you're helping. And every single Narkaron on that planet does that to a certain degree, like every so many days. They might do a job here for 2 days, a job there for 3 days, a job there for a week, and then they might go on a holiday. And even going on a holiday, you know, if you want to go on a holiday, say to the Gold Coast, you ring up or you go on the internet, you book your accommodations, you get your bank card out and it costs you $1,500 for 7 days. Then you go down there and every time you go for a meal, you got to fork out more money. And you come back and you just spent $3,000. You say, God, I've got to pay that off now. The Karons have never, ever thought that way. If they want a holiday, they go on and see what's available. Then they say, yes, I want to go to that city near the ocean. They log in, they book it, they turn up, they have their holiday, they have their food, their entertainment, because all these people all over the entire globe are working at these different jobs at different times to help these people. And they do it to them. So it's an ongoing system developed to help each other from the heart.
It's very abundant, isn't it?
Very abundant. Very, very abundant.
This concludes part 1 of Planet Narkariss. If you've got a question or for any reason would like to contact Kuntarkis, including if you'd like to book some time with him, simply email kuntarkis@gmail.com. There are several parts to follow, so stay tuned for more.